I know this might be a bit of a weird idea, but it's just something I came up with. Now, I already talked about every Bluey mom and dad in 2 separate videos. They'll both be linked in the description if anyone's curious. But this is if anyone wanted to just focus on the healers and cattles in those 2 videos, then this is the one for you. So anyway, this is every Bluey healer parent, good to most good. Alright, so before we can get on to our good rankings, we have 3 characters who actually deserve to be in the gray area. By the way, I want to say this, before we get on to the rankings, I kind of also want to do this just to bring up some new material for these characters in particular, well, for some of them at least, but I apologize if I'm repeating myself from the other 2 videos, which again are linked in the description if anyone wants more detail, just in case I don't really have a lot to talk about. But with all that being said, let's get into the ranking. Starting off at the very bottom of the gray area should kind of be no surprise if you all saw my Bluey Moms video. It easily has to go to Chris, who's the quote-unquote worst parent out of the main healers, even though she's not that bad. So I actually didn't mention this when ranking her the first time, but I have heard that some people actually mentioned that it was the 80s and it was kind of normal for everyone to be like this, I'm assuming. But if I'm gonna be honest, no matter what decade or year it is, that is not a good excuse. Look, I understand that it was at a pretty weird time in the 1900s, but still though, attempting to be one of your sons with a flip-flop just because they ate all your mini cereals or any type of food, that's not a good excuse. Again, I want to repeat myself, just in case anyone isn't aware, abuse is never a good thing, and I don't care if anyone says, oh, it was just the 80s. Look, I don't care what decade it is, cause that's not really a good excuse for her attempting to hit one of her sons with a flip-flop. Now, if we were to easily see her being abusive, she easily would have been a bad mom, but thankfully she has enough positives to be here and not any lower. For starters, Chris and Bob genuinely love Rad, Stripe, and Bandit, and we could immediately give both of them credit for how phenomenal Bandit turned out to be as a person and a dad, and the same goes with Stripe, and well, Rad isn't really a father yet, but he still is a great guy. Also, later on during the fairy tale episode, she does actually try to make things right in the end, so that's something at least. Also, except maybe one instance where she did try to use vegetable oil on Bluey to help her walk back when she was a baby, which was illegal, she easily is a great grandmother at the end of the day. So overall, she definitely has room for improvement and has made a lot of mistakes, especially that last action we just mentioned. But because she genuinely does love her kids and grandkids and, well, has mostly been a good person, well, in her elderly state, she does more than enough to rank here, but at the bottom of the gray area. Alright, our next entry is definitely pretty coincidental, but up next is Bob. So remember back when we mentioned that Bob is the least good dad in Bluey? Well, we still kind of honestly agree with that, but we're keeping him here for a lack of information, since he doesn't really have a lot to talk about compared to Chris, even back in his elderly state. While he definitely is a good grandparent, as a father, he's more mysterious. He might be a bit grumpy, especially when he told Stripe and Rad to actually stop screaming because of whatever they were doing. I mean, that was understandable at the end of the day. He's more or less mysterious rather than actually a bad person or a bad father in this case. Oh yeah, and kind of minus points for forgetting Bandit's name. It's not really a huge negative, but it's just something to mention. Other than that though, he definitely is not as bad as Chris. Far from it. But because of a lack of information, he's decent at best and, well, pretty confusing and controversial at most. Which is why he is the true neutral of this list. And rounding out the gray area is actually the most positive character so far. We have Brandy. Brandy ranks in the gray area for only one reason. We haven't really seen her be a parent to her son yet. Even though she is pregnant and we can't wait to see it, we sadly can't really give her a good ranking because, well, we just don't really have any information yet. Yes, we could technically give her a lot of points for, well, how she was around with Bluey and Bingo in the Onesies episode, but that's really about it. Plus, she's Bluey and Bingo's aunt, not mother. But anyway, we definitely have to place her at the top of the gray area though, since she definitely does seem looking forward to be a mom, and, well, the rest of us can't wait to see the baby after all. But anyway, with all that being said, we finally now arrive at the good parents. So quick spoiler warning, except the top 2, everyone else is going to be ranked separately so that way we can pad this video out in terms of runtime. So the least good parent is Trixie. Trixie in our mom's video actually ranked fairly high and we still do agree with it, but in terms of the healers, she's the least good. It's not because she has any negative qualities or anything like such, it's just, well, she's just ranked lower because the other ones are just better. That's literally it. Other than that though, Trixie has nothing negative in the slightest we could say. The only negative we could possibly say is her outrage in the Facey Talk episode, which, I mean, was understandable. I mean, if your kid, niece, or whatever, well, even a friend who's actually a kid, actually barges into the bathroom while you're in it, wouldn't you feel a bit, well, startled at most and, well, want to actually try and stop them at least? Now, I know we could possibly point to the Muffin Cone episode, but it was really well intentioned, and plus, well, we all have to stop sucking our thumb at some point, so she actually was doing the right thing here. Also, the main reason why she's placed at the bottom of the good section, even though she has no other negatives as far as we're aware of, she doesn't really have that much screen time compared to her husband Stripe. But other than that though, she definitely definitely is a good mom for sure. And speaking of which, next up is, coincidentally, Stripe. So remember back at our Bluey Dads video, he was actually the 5th most good dad in that video, and we still stand by it to this day. Now, the main negative that everyone could possibly point to is the library episode, where he kind of spoiled Muffin just a little bit, but it's not like he's Drew Pickles level of spoiled or anything. Also, later on in the episode, he does realize what he actually did, and even though it wasn't too big of a negative after all, he did realize that while Muffin definitely was important to him and Trixie, and possibly the rest of the family, Muffin isn't special to the rest of the world or possibly anyone else. Although here's something I actually just found out. He's kind of true on that, but mainly to us the viewers if we actually at the very least like or tolerate Muffin, and I know she is special to some people in our hearts. No matter how crazy she is, even though Muffin is definitely a good girl, Stripe and Trixie are definitely good parents to her and Socks. So him being a little above Trixie is kind of odd for some people, but it's just because he has more screen time and slightly less negatives. Well, okay, they both have just 1 or 2 negatives, but that's really about it. So believe it or not, we're already entering our top 3. So taking home the bronze medal of good is Chili's mom. Now, we mentioned this already twice by now, but this is like the 3rd time we're mentioning this. Chili's mom only got 1 appearance in the Dragon episode, and that's about it. But the main reason why she's all the way up here is because while she definitely was a good mother to Chili in that one scene, just encouraging her to not give up on her horse, we have to give her and Mort, who we'll get to in a second, so much credit for how much both of them turned out to be as adults. While we are waiting to see what Brandy is like, Chili is a phenomenal mother, and I know this list is going to be predictable at this point, but just we'll get there. Other than that, we sadly can't give her a higher ranking because of the lack of screen time, and also, well, she is dead in the show, but that is really sad. But for the time that we actually do know about her and the information that we have, she easily deserves to be in the top 3. Alright, so this is actually a pretty predictable ranking from now on. We only have 2 entries left. The silver medal of good goes to Mort. So like we just mentioned with his wife, Mort immediately has to gain a lot of credit for how great Chili and Brandy turn out as people, and again, Chili has a phenomenal mom, who we will get to shortly. Also, Mort is kind of like Bandit. He's playful with Bluey and Bingo, has no negative qualities whatsoever, and does seem to be a family man. Other than that though, he doesn't really have a lot of screen time, which, I mean, he wouldn't really get the gold medal anyway, but still though, for him getting 2nd place and his wife right before, both of them deserve to be in the top 3 really easily, especially since, well, Mort has more screen time and actually has more to talk about. But now, it's time for the moment that every single person, even though it's really obvious, has been waiting for. Bandit and Chili both get the gold medal. I know this might seem a bit weird since, well, we could just talk about them separately, but they're both just too good to get the gold medal. So honestly, both of them have nothing in the slightest that would make them drop even lower from one another. Even though Bandit has made just a couple mistakes, he easily does turn around and try to actually make things right, even though he is still a phenomenal dad. I mean, hey, multiple people actually do seem to idolize him as a dad. And the same goes with Chili. Although Chili literally has no negatives whatsoever, that alone could have given her the top spot, but she has way more that would actually give her the top spot. They're both loving and nurturing, caring, actually giving out good parenting moments whenever they're actually talking in the series about that, and taking almost every single game Bluey and Bingo come up with pretty seriously to the point where it's almost like a real occurrence that's actually happening. I mean, there's nearly 200 episodes where we could possibly just talk about, but we kind of can't, honestly, because again, we would be here almost all day just talking about every episode that they're in, but just look it up and tell us that Ben and Chili deserve nothing but the top spot on the list. For not only being the best parents in the entire Bluey series, but possibly in cartoons in general, but I mean, that's just my opinion.